Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to those of you who are joining us on this beautiful, I was about to say Thursday, but it is definitely a Wednesday. Just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce myself and who I've got joining me today from Virtual Vision. I'm going to go ahead and add Terry to the stage. So wanted to introduce Terry. Terry is our project manager here at Virtual Vision, and she today is going to be helping with moderation of comments. If there's something that we want to share, some questions that you have at any point today, feel free to drop those into the chat, and Terry will make sure we kind of get those queued up for some Q&A time at the end. So thanks for your help today, Terry.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. All right, I'll go ahead and put you back so that you can be off screen while you moderate this. All right. And my name is Amanda. I'm so excited to be with all of you today. I am the CEO here at Virtual Vision. We are a digital marketing company that partners with both local companies here in Wisconsin, as well as home services businesses across the nation, restoration, roofing, to just make sure that you've got a solid foundation in place where we can help, supplement what you're doing. We definitely want to be a partner that our customers can trust. So today's topic probably applies to even just a lot more than our target audience. But today we're specifically going to be talking about how to finish 2025 strong. I think we're all in that season of the year right now where we're starting to figure out, how do we change what we did this year in preparation for next year to make sure that it's actually benefiting what we're doing, and that, it gives us the output that we want. And so today we're going to be just doing a really simple, practical tune-up, some questions that you can ask on your current marketing before the year ends. And let me just say, marketing in and of itself can feel a little bit daunting. We never fully know how something's going to turn out. As a marketing agency, we can't ever promise specific results to our customers. But that being said, what I can promise you as a result of some of the things we're going to talk about today is that if you start evaluating these things now, you will be ahead of the trend. And that's why it's so incredibly important to do this. As I mentioned, a couple of housekeeping notes as we look into specifically the webinar today. As I mentioned, this is an interactive session. So we're actually going to be trying a few things today to see how it works. I am hoping that I've got some interactive tools that we're hoping to use. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the first one on the screen here. And this is, if you are joining, you're supposed to be able to drop in the chat here where you are joining us from, and it's supposed to populate on this map. We did test it, and I'm going to be honest, it did not work when we tried it this morning. But I'm going to go ahead, I'll pop in here and see if it makes any bit of a difference on this map. If not, feel free to drop in and we'll still at least be able to see. Looks like we've got some fellow Wisconsinites today. We've got Kati from Oregon. So all over the nation so far. I don't see anything populating on my map, but it is what it is. Ben from Minneapolis, Laura from Wisconsin. We've got Matt in Indiana, Bree from Utah. Well, great to have you all joining today. As I mentioned, as you have comments or things you want to say about anything we're walking through, please drop those into the chat. Today, if you have questions that come up, drop those in, and Terry will be taking a note so that hopefully we have some good time for specifically for some Q&A time at the end of today. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my presentation screen. Give me just a moment here. All right. So as I mentioned, today we are going to be talking through an end of year marketing tune-up, how we can finish 2025 strong. And here's what I want to start with today. I have been in the marketing space now for plenty of years, 15-ish years now, working, with a lot of home service businesses and a lot of different businesses. And there is one thing that I have learned over the past decade, and it's this: people are not failing, or businesses are not failing because they aren't trying. Many of you are probably running ads, posting on social media, updating your website. You are doing the work that is part of your marketing efforts. But effort doesn't necessarily matter if you can't actually see what's happening. The biggest marketing issues don't come from a lack of effort. What they come from is a lack of clarity. And today I want to help you get the clarity that you've been missing so that you can stop guessing and start making informed decisions that actually drive revenue. As we're in here, in the chat, if you don't mind, drop kind of the industry of the business that you are coming from or a part of, whether that's restoration, roofing, plumbing, something else, maybe a builder, anything along those lines. This will just help me shape some of the examples that I want to use today. In the patterns, service industries especially have their own quirks as it comes to marketing. So the more I know about who's here, the more I can really help tailor this to you. Awesome. We've got a few restoration. Love it. We've got restoration vendors. Laura, modular home construction. Awesome. I recognize some of your guys' names in the chat, and I'm super excited that you chose to join today. One of the things before we dive into today's session that I want to mention, Terry and I actually just came from a local meeting this morning that we had that was with our chamber, and it was called the Marketing Hub. So marketers from our area get together with speakers, and we get to talk and collaborate, but we also get to have some professional development time. And before I dive into today's talk, especially with that statement that I just said on the previous slide, which I'll go back to here, clarity is incredibly important, not just in the results of the efforts that you're putting forth, but a strategy behind what you're doing matters. Something that the speaker said this morning that really stuck with me and put great verbiage to a struggle that I see often in businesses is that we first jump to the tactics of what we're doing with marketing, but we forget to stop and ask the question of why. Why? What's your goal in that? And why? What is the foundation? Not just, oh, I want more clicks. I want more people on my website. Why? Well, I want to generate more money. Well, why? Really deep diving. We're not diving into that specifically today. We are going to talk a lot about tactics, but especially in light of hearing that again this morning, I want to remind you that marketing clarity doesn't just come from tactics or results. You have to understand the foundation of your brand and your goals and your strategy first before your tactics can even make sense. This is something I get uber passionate about, so I'll try not to step on my soapbox too much here. So why does it matter to take a look at the end of the year before December 31st at what your marketing is doing? Q4 is one of the most overlooked times for marketing cleanup. Everyone's tired. We're all hitting that, like, I just want my days off for the holiday mode. Our phones slow down, and it's easy to just shift into that, like, I have a short week here, then I have these weeks, and I have another short week and another short week. And we think about it in that cycle. But the reality is 90% of your competitors are also doing that. So why would you not use some of this quiet time now to get your foundation right and get ahead? This is your chance to quietly tune everything up so that when January hits, you're already rolling. You're not behind. Because when your new year hits, you should already be in motion, not just starting the thought process of what should be happening and what the goals are for your marketing strategy next year. In fact, there's some really interesting research behind this. Tavazo, which is a research company for business success, did a study earlier this year that companies who complete structured year-end reviews report up to 25% higher success rates the following revenue year. And that's not just because they're putting in more work, it's because they're working with clarity. So here's what I want you to do. Grab a very quick pen and paper. You could probably also add this in your head, but we are going to do a quick end of year mini audit for your company. You do not need to share your scores, but here are the questions that I want you to answer. Give yourself 1 point for each yes that you answer with this audit. First question, do you know your cost per lead from each source? Yes or no? Do you know which channel brought you your best jobs in 2025? Does your Google business profile have posts from the last 14 days, within the last 14 days? Has your website been updated or optimized in the last 12 months? This does not mean just photos. And do you have a system for collecting reviews each week? Give yourself 1 point for each yes. I'm going to give you a second to read through those and jot down your score here quick. And then I'm going to give you your scores and the ranges that those fall into. This is where I need a little Jeopardy theme song music. I'll have to remind myself to add that in next time. Okay. All right. Everybody got your score. Let's go ahead and take a look. So if you look at your score, if you scored a 0 to a 1, you are realistically in what I'm going to call restart mode. It's time to start fresh and build something for yourself in 2026. Score was 2 to 3. You've got some good pieces, but you're likely missing an inconsistent foundation that can really help you scale. And if you scored a 4 to 5, that is fantastic. It doesn't mean, however, that like checkbox, you're done for the next year. Instead, it means, hey, now is the time to really optimize and lean into those pieces. So keep your score in mind and where you land on this spectrum as we talk through the rest of our topics today. And what those topics are is we are going to look at a high level audit of each of the 5, what I would call most critical areas of marketing for your business: your website, your Google business profile, your ads and your paid methods, your local reputation, and 5, your branding. So we're going to look at each of these. We're going to talk a little bit about these 5 areas that help determine if your marketing engine is healthy or leaking money as you move into next year's. And I want to make sure to note, I'm going to give you a high level explanation of each area. And then I'm going to give you some action items, things that you can go audit yourself on today with each of those items. I will say, most companies look at this area of audit, and it is a little bit like a spectrum, like it's a foundation that's building upon each other. And I would actually maybe shift it just to put branding as 1 and then shift the rest out, because branding is like the foundation, the strategy, the goals behind what you're doing, the mission, the vision, the why. And then everything else builds upon that. Most companies, though, look at, okay, here's my goal. I'm going to skip right to number 3. I'm going to do ads and paid ads because I want instant results. But if the rest of these pieces are not optimized as they should be and in place, you're essentially pouring water into a cracked bucket. It's not going to stick. You're going to waste money. And so that's why we're going to look at each of these areas. So let's start with our foundation. Number 1, your website. This is the hub of your entire marketing engine. Everything, every Google click, every email, every referral, it should all come back to your website. If your website breaks, everything else underperforms. Interestingly enough, I'm not sure if any of you were aware, there was a major internet outage this week with a major server called Cloudflare, and it caused outages on a lot of different platforms. Well, an article came out today of here's how you can expect that outage to affect your SEO, which goes to support the fact that if your website breaks, other things could underperform. If your website is slow, outdated, confusing, untracked, I'm going to talk more about that later, everything else downstream will underperform. And the year end is an ideal time for fixes moving into 2026 because there's some understanding of what Google's going to be focusing on moving into next year. You have a good 4-month chunk right now, 4 to 5 months until Google rolls out their next major core algorithm update, giving you some really good time to gain traction. So what does it actually mean? What should you be checking when we talk about your website? Site speed. This is the first one. Speed is everything. Sites should load in under 3 seconds. 47% of users actually expect that websites should load in less than 2 seconds. This is done, a report that was done by a brand called Portent, Portent. I'm not sure why I didn't put that source on this slide, but speed is everything. Portent also found that pages that load in 1 second have 3 times better conversion rates than pages that load in 5 seconds. And this can all come down to really simple fixes. Videos. Are you loading a video on your page? Can we switch that to an image? All little things that sometimes we want something so specific visually, but might actually harm the speed of our website. And Google does rate you based on your website speed. It is a factor. And you can easily run some tests on your page speed. Page Speed Insights is a Google tool you can go and run to see your page loading speed. There's also some other free tools with Google called Google Lighthouse that will show you how quickly things load. Next, mobile first. 70 to 80% of service searches nowadays happen on mobile. And if your buttons or your links aren't working on mobile or they load funny and don't look right, you're likely losing jobs because someone's not going to waste their time with that content. Most service searches are mobile. So check your forms, check your phone numbers, check your links, check that it actually just looks good on a mobile device. Other areas of your website to check. Tracking. Is every single activity or action that someone is taking on your website actually tracked? Do you know when someone has filled out a form and clicked on it to contact you? Do you know when someone clicks the phone number on your website to call? I'm going to talk about it again in a little bit, but if you are not call tracking, if you are not using some sort of call recording tracking service from your website, you're not marketing. You're hoping because you have no idea and no way to track what's actually happening beyond that. Because I might be able to say, hey, there's a click on my phone number button, but I have no person to attribute that click to now. And I'm guessing. And you know what they say about guessing and assuming. So just a thought. You can tell I get on a little bit of a soapbox about these things. You need attribution to know what's worth spending money on. And then finally, content accuracy. Check your website for outdated service areas, old photos that need to be updated. Are there missing call to actions on areas of your page? Incorrect seasonal hours? Small fixes like this can build trust very quickly, and they're very easy wins. So let's see here. Let's move to number 2. Your number 2 is your Google business profile. You guys, I cannot stress it enough. Your Google business profile is your most important free. I wish I could get some big lights flashing on the screen right now. Free marketing tool. According to Google, in 2018, 46% of all searches showed a local intent or like a near me focus. That was 2018. And I can only imagine that's grown now. Google hasn't released an official statistic on that, but if it was 46% in 2018, it's for sure higher now. And Google is still deciding who to show up for near me searches, or in what we call the local pack in your map based on consistency, relevancy, and activity in your Google business profile, not just your keywords. Your Google business profile, also often referred to shortly as a GBP, fuels your visibility and your credibility. It's where people judge if they can trust you. They're looking at your hours, your photos, your reviews, your posts, your updates. These are all signals that tell Google and your customers that you are active and reputable. And Google, the GBP is a free tool. You need to verify your business to be on it. But it is really a no-brainer to look at and to utilize well. So what are some things that we should check here? As we consider, especially end of years, doing a quick audit on your GBP is very easy. Have you updated your holiday hours for the holidays that we have coming up here in the US? Google actually boosts visibility for businesses that update seasonal information. So make sure you're doing that. Even if your hours don't change, when you log into the back end of your Google business profile, it will ask you if you have different hours for your seasonal hours. Just go in there and add the same hours that you normally did because Google sees that you're active. Service area versus address. Fix this. I can't put it any more simply. Inconsistent info hurts your ranking. There have been some case studies that have shown Google does allow you to create what's called a service area profile, meaning it just shows the area that you serve, but it is prioritizing companies who have actual physical addresses or actual physical office locations that they are showing to people. So make sure that your service area versus your address, that those things are updated. Make sure your categories and your services that you've added as many as can apply to you. Google technically says you only need to add a few, but case studies are showing by a company called, not Bright Local, Sterling Sky, that companies who add more services and categories into their GBPs actually perform better. Weekly posts. These do not have to be fancy. Just post something. Just be active. Hey, here's a photo from a job we did this week give the city, the state, and what it was that you did. So if it was for my restoration companies out there, you had a frozen pipe. It's cold here in Wisconsin now. So if you had a frozen pipe burst and you went and mitigated and did that water damage, post a picture from that. Say, hey, I did water damage in Wausau, Wisconsin this week. Thanks to the customer, we're happy to help you, or something along those lines. Post that in your Google business profile. That shows activity and helps keep things active. And then finally, review velocity. We all know that reviews are incredibly important to a Google business profile, but slow and steady wins the race. Now, you want as many good reviews as you can get. What you don't want, though, is 50 reviews that come in all in the same month and just boost your number. Sterling Sky also did a case study on slow and steady review gathering. Basically, the ones who are consistent in getting a handful of reviews per month are the ones that have bigger like spikes in their performance, rather than someone who just says, all right, it's the slow time of the year, we're going to go get 50 reviews from customers now. You want to do that consistently across your year. All right, let's move on to number 3, your ads and paid methods. Wow, and I spelled this wrong that I see now at my top. So forgive my header here, human error, but ads and paid methods are a high reward when they're done right. They're a high waste when they are done wrong. And what it comes down to is that most companies overspend or believe what they're spending money on isn't working because they are not tracking. What I said earlier, if you are not tracking your leads down to the finest detail that you can, you'll never fully know if an avenue is performing for you or not. You are assuming. Landing page issues alone, when it comes to ads, can burn through thousands upon thousands of dollars. So that's why it comes down to you have to track what you're doing. Cloudflare, ironically, after their outage yesterday, earlier this year, released a report that even a 1-second delay in a load time on your website page that an ad is leading to can reduce your ad conversions by up to 7%. If you're a smaller business, 7% can be pretty hefty. So it's really important to note that and understand it well. And as I mentioned earlier, Portent, that same company, found that pages loading in 1 second convert 3 times better than those that load in 5 seconds or more. And why do I mention this with ads? Because most ads, a good portion of them, run to some sort of landing page where you're encouraging someone to convert, whether it's a contact page or a specific ad optimized page. These things are important to look at. So end of year is the perfect time for trimming wasted ad spend. If you've tracked details, you can look at that and lean into what's working or what's not. So what should you be checking when it comes to your ads? What is your cost per lead, as well as your cost per job? If you don't know these details, stop evaluating your ads budget and go figure out what has to happen or what attribution needs to be put in place to achieve this, because you cannot, I repeat, you cannot audit your marketing spend if you don't have these details. Are you call tracking? Call tracking is a non-negotiable if you are looking to get calls from customers based on the paid methods that you are getting. Again, you might know from your website analytics that you got 3 phone calls, but if you don't know who those 3 phone calls came from, like who exactly was the customer, what good is it? You have no idea what's actually working. So again, call tracking. Are you tracking calls? This is a non-negotiable. Are you running campaigns in high converting service areas? Turn off your poor performers. Don't keep paying for bad traffic, or vice versa. You don't need to turn it off fully, but scale back into the things that aren't performing and scale up in the things that were performing. Marketing is not set it and forget it. It's a constant adjustment of understanding what things are working and then leaning into that a little bit more. So ask yourself, did you turn off your poor performers this year? And what were those? Was it a poor performer seasonally, or was it something that across the whole year you wanted to stick with? And then finally, has your landing page been tested on mobile? Again, 40 some, a huge number of searches. I'm sorry, I was about to say the local statistic, but a huge number of searches are on mobile devices. So save yourself thousands by making the fixes that you need on your landing pages for mobile conversions, and make sure you know what you're looking for there. So I had, this great interactive tool that I was hoping to use for this next question, just so that we could get an idea across the room and who's here of how much you spend on ads per month. But one of the things, you don't necessarily need to enter this in the comments since my poll is clearly not working. I'll look into it for the next webinar, but if you do spend money on ads, on that same page where you gave yourself a note or a score on your marketing, make sure to write down, what do you estimate that you're spending on ads? And do you know what the return from those ads is? All right, let's move to number 4. Reputation drives your revenue. Reviews drive your revenue and your rankings. Local IQ did a study earlier this year that 93% of people read online reviews before they make any sort of a purchase or an engagement with a company. Your reputation drives your revenue. Reviews are incredibly impactful on your local pack ranking, meaning showing up for those near me searches. In fact, about 9% of local search ranking factors include your star ratings and a steady flow of reviews, not just a huge amount all at one time. Searchland I don't think I put this on here. Searchland did note that the review and rating portion influences whether someone sees your search, your Google business profile in results in the first place. Google looks heavily at your reviews. And as I mentioned earlier, Sterling Sky did a study recently that review consistency is a bigger ranking factor than the total review counts. Google values your monthly review activity more than the most number of reviews. I hear all the time from people, why are my competitors who have a lower ranking than me showing up before me? Well, it might be because they get consistently 5 new reviews a month versus your 30 that you get each quarter when you send out a campaign. So keep those things in mind. So what should you check as you look into auditing your local reputation? So from a super quantifiable standpoint, did you get at least 2 to 8? Apparently this is, Sterling Sky said is the golden number, at least 2 to 8 new reviews per month this year. If no, why not? If yes, what were you doing that made that successful? Do your reviews, when you're auditing them, describe your services, which helps your SEO. Where were they done and what service was performed? And you can, as you ask people for reviews, you can coach them a little bit on, hey, this would be helpful if in your review you could put what we did for you and where you're located. They don't have to be like, drop a pin on a map, this is my house, but just a general service area is helpful. The other thing to check is, are you responding to all reviews? Yes, all reviews, even the negative ones, even the spam ones. Are you responding to them? Do you automate your review requests? Do you automatically ask them, or are you relying on someone to do that themselves? There are ups and downs to both, but I think it's an important question to ask. And then finally, take a look at your total review quantity on your Google business profile and compare that to some of your local competitors. Understand your total amount, but then you can also look and see how recent reviews were coming in to help you understand what they might be doing differently. All right. Number 5 in my book, this will always be number 1, but your branding is the foundation upon everything which your business should stand. Your marketing, your hiring, the way you service people, all of this goes back to the foundation of your branding, which, by the way, is more than just your logos and your colors. It's so important to note that. It's your reputation, it's your tone of voice, it's your visuals, it's your consistency across every single touch point that your customer interacts with you, even if they aren't aware they're interacting with you. Research from Lucid Press shows that consistent presentation across all different platforms, all those different touch points can increase your revenue by 10 to 20%. That was in a study done this year by Lucid Press survey called Exploding Topics. Branding Insider says that brand consistency increases your trust and your recognition instantly. People make trust decisions in 1.7 seconds. If your branding or your messaging is outdated, inconsistent, or unclear, you are going to lose them before they even start scrolling. So it's important to make sure you're looking at these things. Review your branding across all of these platforms, because consistency equals credibility. So what are some really practical things that you can audit on your current branding? So little things like, if we're talking visual, add some holiday things that call some differentiation to your visual branding. Are all your touch points on your website speaking the same voice? Is your brand verbiage and tone on your social media the same as the brand and verbiage and tone on your website? Make sure that your value propositions and your mission statements, the why, are clear in everything you're doing. Visually, again, from a branding standpoint, refresh your images. Use images that showcase who you are more than just your service. Show your values, your mission, your vision in action. Simplify your messaging. We don't need to make, we all should have some sort of like elevator speech as a part of our brand guidelines, which if you don't have brand guidelines, let's chat. Those are so crucially important. But simplify your messaging. If someone says, hey, in 30 seconds, what do you do? We help blank. Why? Because blank. It should be that easy and it should be that consistent. So keep that all in mind. So as we start to wrap things up, as I mentioned, most marketing audits or concerns don't necessarily, they might identify, some things you need to fix, but it's not necessarily from a lack of effort. As I said before, it comes from a lack of clarity. And you should not be guessing your way in to 2026. Your 2026 strategy needs to be built on the data and clarity of auditing your 2025 results. Have your attributions in place to know what is working. As we close out 2025, it is the perfect opportunity to utilize what feels like or can feel like quieter moments to pause, assess, and make sure that you are spending in the right areas instead of leaking dollars. So some final questions, some final notes of things to ask yourself, high level, again, related to 2025's marketings. What channels brought you your best or your worst jobs? Do you know why? Where did you waste money this year? Are you assuming waste, or do you have true lead tracking and attribution in place? And were you consistent this year in your marketing, or were you reactive? These are important questions to ask. I'm going to end by one final note, that if I had to tell you the three numbers that you needed to make sure you are tracking in 2026, it would be these three simple things. This would allow you to make smarter decisions than 90% of your competitors. How many leads did you get from your marketing? Again, this is all going to stem on a foundation of lead attribution. How many leads did you get? How many of those leads turned into actual jobs? And of those jobs, what channels did they come from and what did it bring your business? That is the entire lead attribution journey. And if you track nothing else in 2026, those three numbers alone will tell you where to invest and where you might need to pull back. So if you are interested, if you're willing, go ahead and drop in the chat what was the channel, if you know off the top of your head, that brought you or your business the best jobs in 2025. I will give that just a moment before we kind of close things up with a final note, and then we'll move on to some Q&A time. So again, if you're willing to drop in the chat, what channel brought you the best jobs in 2025? Don't be shy. Bree, Google Ads. That is fantastic. And to be able to say that means you likely have some sort of lead attribution in place. And that, I love to hear that. Love to hear that. Who else? Keep in mind, these can be things like word of mouth, local efforts, boots on the ground, things like that. If you're tracking those items and you know it, share those. Jason, trade shows. Love that. Yes. Trade shows are so important. We were talking about that this morning. If that's where you know your target audience is going to be, often they get overlooked. But if that's where they're going to be, go to them. It's important. Bree, I love it. I know you're never shy. Well, if you still want to share where your biggest channel, your best channel was for 2025, Matt, plumbers. Yes, especially for restoration. That's such a huge referral channel. If you still want to share what brought you your best jobs in 2025, feel free to drop that in the chat. I'm going to move on to our final slide that I will just leave up as we run through some Q&A time as well. But let me say this. One of the things that I love to do is just meet with customers to do an audit and understand what's working, what's not, where are there areas of opportunity, and make suggestions. This is something that we offer all the time as Virtual Vision on a regular basis, whether you work with us or not. The reports are yours to keep. It's your information. Why would I gatekeep it? This just allows us to pull and audit both. We look at the back end coding of your website to understand speed, those details. We look at direct reports that we don't white label and pull directly from Google to understand traffic and performance and competitors and all those details. And then we just make suggestions, or I just make suggestions to you based on areas of opportunity or leaks that I see that could be shored up. So if you are interested, you can just scan this QR code. We also dropped the link, Hazel dropped the link here in the chat, and you can go ahead and click on that I'll also show it here on the bottom. You can click on that, schedule some time to chat with me. Again, it's okay if you don't work with us afterwards. We just want to be able to help. No pressure, no clarity, just walk through it together. So I'm going to leave this screen up while we move into some question time. If you have questions and you haven't already dropped those into the comments, feel free to do so. And then we can answer those for you. So I'm going to go ahead and add Terry. Again, Terry is our project manager back on the stage. There we go. Now we can see us both. Terry, did we have any questions that came in?
No, sorry, we haven't had anything come through.
Oh,
There's
well,
probably
hey.
some time. You have done an amazing job of really sharing lots of things through website, Google Business Profile, ads and paids, local rep branding. Yeah. So I think you've been very thorough and done a wonderful job. So, yeah. And Hazel, like you said, has dropped in your calendar here, there. So if someone wants to touch base and hear more about things. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. If there's any other questions, we'll just hang out for a little while. This technically ends the, official presentation portion of our webinar. I do want to note here that I do have a kind of a website marketing year-end audit link, similar, a much more robust version of that self-assessment that we did at the start of this, that I will be emailing to everyone who signed up for this webinar and attended today, so that you can just give yourself a little bit more of an in-depth score on where might there be areas that we need to shore up a little bit more. So that'll be emailed out to you by the end of the week. So go ahead and watch for that. And as always, thanks for joining us today. We will hang tight and just chat a little bit and see if anyone has questions. Terry, I'll put you on the hot seat. Was there anything that stood out to you today that you were like, we should, that's good information, or we should think about that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you had mentioned, how important it is for Google Business Profile for that to be updated and things too. Like you said, that's I know even before I started working for Virtual Vision, that's where I went for so many of just where to choose, whatever it is, if I'm searching for something in the local area. So yeah, it's so important, like you said, to have all of your information up to date on there.
Yeah.
And yeah, where to leave reviews. People read those. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that's a good thing to bring up, just to note, because we've been getting this question a lot lately. Google has rolled out some like automated updates to GBPs, or Google Business Profiles, where they are automatically making updates. For instance, they're automatically removing keywords from your name, even if it's a physical part of your name. So if your name is blank restoration, they might remove restoration. So keep an eye on those things. I know our team monitors that and reverses those updates. But if you don't have someone monitoring your Google Business Profile and working to review the things that Google is updating automatically, make sure you're doing that. That's a really big part of strategy that you want to make sure you're reviewing now, but even continues into 2025.
Yeah, yeah. So Katie had mentioned she's really going to make it a priority to make sure her Google Business Profile is up to date. So that's great to have that as a goal.
It's a great focus. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Seth asks, could I please see the last questions to ask slide again?
Absolutely.
Looks like he's missing one of the questions he found important. So sure.
Awesome. I'm glad those were helpful, Seth. And you guys, as you're writing that down, or I will send out a recording of this webinar to you as well. I believe StreamYard sends it out automatically to you, but you'll also get a link to it. So if there's anything you want to go back and watch, I'll send that out when I send out that additional questionnaire for you. I think the biggest thing to note with all of this is it can seem overwhelming to like do these types of audits. I mean, Terry, I know I can be honest with you. I feel overwhelmed when I do these audits for our business. Like it's a lot to process all
Yes.
at once, but start small. Just take one step at a time. If all you can audit and focus on is your Google Business Profile, start there. And then take the next step when you've got that in place. If all you can focus on is, hey, I can't audit my marketing until I've got lead attribution in place, then start there. If you need help getting lead attribution in place, I'm happy to point you in direction, or our team would be happy to help and share information on that too. So
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you can have a lot of control over your Google business profile by just logging on and just seeing what's there,
Yes,
and things too. So it doesn't just sit there and simmer kind of, but you can go in there and like, yeah, to update it and things too. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Seth, Bree, thank you for your comments. Thank you so much for helping or for coming, for helping too, because you helped with your comments as well. I appreciate the interaction.
mhm.
All right, guys. Well, if there are no more questions, we will go ahead and end our stream. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Feel free to scan this QR code if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what's working and what's not. Watch for some follow-up emails, but in the meantime, have a very happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll see you at our December webinar, which you can always find more information on at virtualvision.com/webinars.